Welcome to part 2 of Competency 6. In this video, we will continue to answer questions involving linear and quadratic equations. Number 6. Which one of the following equations has a graph with the highest point at -7 and 8? Okay, let's take a look. Well, first off, let's look at the form it's in. It is in vertex form. And here's our y, which would be our k. Remember, we have h and k, which relates to the x and y values of the vertex it's given. So 8's correct. What we need to do is look at one thing, or actually two things. One element is that they asked for the highest point. If they're asking for the highest point, this means we're looking at a graph that goes downward and it would have a high vertex, a maximum. This tells me that we're looking for a negative leading coefficient. So that eliminates A and B. So now we have -4 and -2 as possibilities. So that narrows it down. Now, we need a negative x. 8's already been eliminated. We're looking at the x value, which is inside the parentheses. So in order for that, or we can just work backwards, actually. Okay, so we can say that x equals -7, which means that if we pull it out of the parentheses, we would have x plus 7 equals 0. So the only one that matches that is D. Okay? If you want to, which I'm not against, go ahead and just graph it. I mean, if you get tired during a test, you start double, guessing yourself. You're saying, okay, am I right? Am I wrong? And you start getting a little tired, of course. So -2, open parentheses, x plus 7, close, and let's square it and say plus 8. Let's graph, and there we go. We have a vertex, and it is definitely negative. So let's go second graph. Let's just arrow up to -7 real quick. Oh, see, right there it is, -7 and 8. Confirmed. Okay, even though we knew the properties, we could still confirm it by graphing. Either way. Okay, number 7. Which one of the following statements is correct concerning the graph of 6x squared plus 48x plus 29? Okay, they're asking for lowest point and highest point in the options. Well, this is positive, a positive leading coefficient, meaning it will open up, and that means the vertex is a minimum. That is the lowest point. This eliminates C and D. They're gone. Okay? Now, my suggestion is, again, we can graph that. So let's go x equals, and then let's clear it out and say 6x squared plus 48x plus 29, and let's graph. That's kind of a difficult graph to see. Okay, there's a couple of ways that I did this. This is enough of a graph. It's kind of hard to zone in on the graph, but what I did is I knew that if it was going to be a minimum, and it is quadratic, the axis of symmetry will be somewhere here in the middle. So I could say, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say it's somewhere between -5 and -3. Okay, so let's use our calculate. I mean, why not? Second, calculate, and we want to find a minimum. So that's number 3. And that wants us to guess or estimate our left bound, and we said -5. And let's enter. Okay, and our right bound, and we said -3. Remember, you got to press enter again. And it looks like it's going to round to -4. Okay, that gives us option A. Now, don't be satisfied with that. What you need to do is verify that. Just in case, double check everything you've entered. You could do the calculations, go ahead and try to factor that out using -4 and -67. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say second window, and I'm going to start at -4. Make sure that I'm going up steps of 1, so that should be 1. And then second graph gives me my table, and it's verified numerically, but then I need to go up. And yes, as I go in either direction from -4, it is increasing in value. See, it goes up to the positive. So we are correct. We verified our findings. Okay, now number 8. If 0 equals ax squared minus 11x plus 4 has no no real zeros, what are the restricted values of A? Okay, they're saying, all right, we have this quadratic, we don't know the leading coefficient, but what would it have to be for it not to have a real zero? It will not cross the x-axis. Well, that is determined by what is the discriminant. The discriminant in our quadratic formula, okay, that's this part right here, okay? Remember? That would be the b squared minus 4 times a times c, okay? Right, that's what we need to look at. Now, if it's negative, then it has, when we calculate the b squared minus the 4 times a times c, if that whole expression turns out to be negative, then it's what we need. So how do we get there? Well, we have a b value of -11, okay? And we're going to square that. And then we have -4a, and our c is a +4. Okay, let's set all of that equal to 0. Okay, pull it out equal to 0. Now, -11 times -11 is 121. Okay, and that's minus 16a equals 0. Now, if we go to solve that, we will have 121 equals 16a. Now, if you notice, something is very familiar here. When we solve this, we find that we're getting this ratio for every single one of our options, which is fine. But what we need is we would need the 16a. I'm going to erase this. We need the 16a to be larger, because if 16a is greater than 121, then we would have the negative discriminant that we need. And that would be a complex situation. If you've done enough of these quadratic problems and worked with them in great detail, then you would already know this. Okay, it's just something that if you don't know this, you don't recognize it, please go out and watch more videos relating to this. Okay, that being said, now if I solve it and I divide by 16 on both sides, what do I get? Well, I see that A has to be greater than 121 over 16. We don't have a choice. It has to be. Okay, so which option would that be? A greater, and it has to be positive, so this wouldn't work. this wouldn't work. The reason I'm sure that they made those negative is to see if you trip up with this negative value here and you don't solve it correctly. So we are looking at C as our option. Okay, that worked out beautifully. Let's continue. Number 9. The zeros of y equals 6x squared plus bx plus c are 2 and negative 7 over 6. What is the value of c? Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. Well, that would be x minus 2 times x plus 7 over 6. Okay, so what's really going to happen here? And we've done a few of these. You may already see that you will keep your x minus 2, but your other parentheses will become 6x plus the 7. Okay, now, well, we can, because they want C, okay? Let's go ahead and just FOIL it. So that will be 6x squared. Well, that's verified in the given. So we know we're on the right track. And then that's a negative 12x plus a 7x minus 14. Well, we're thinking it's D, but let's go ahead and follow through. 6x squared minus 5x minus 14. Okay, let's verify that. Ooh, that is not correct. What have I done here? That's minus 12 plus 12 minus. Well, you know what? Just in case, let's see if. Yes, I do believe that's correct. But let's graph it and see what happens. Okay, when we graph it, let's not even graph it. Let's use our application, our number 9. We could have graphed it, but this is faster. This way we can go back. We need real zeros, so let's push graph. Let's verify to make sure that we're correct. So we have 6, enter. We need a minus, enter. A 5 is already there. And then the minus is already there. And then a 14. And it's entered. So let's remember solve is graph. So push graph. Okay. Yes. And I agree. Now that's a decimal. Well, I want to use this F to D, push that. And that tells me that's my given. So that means that I calculated this correctly and D is the correct option. Okay, number 10. The two roots, that means zeros, of 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c equals a half and negative a fifth. We're going to do the same exact thing. They want to know what a and b are. So we need x minus a half times x plus 1/5. So what do we really have? We have 2x minus 1 times 5x plus 1. And we FOIL 10x, that is 10x squared. And that's a negative 5x plus 2x minus 1. And that gives us a 10x squared minus 3x minus 1. Well, they want A and the B. The only options that work, well, A, C don't work. This won't work, so it has to be B. Now, we can do the same thing. We can pop this into the calculator, make sure that it brings us back to where we started, to the given, okay, to verify that our calculations are right in the first place. Yes, you're probably looking at it and you did it with me, but again, I'm going to say when you are taking a test and you're stressed and you're tired, Double checking quickly with a calculator is always beneficial. And it doesn't take that much time. So let's see where it looks like it's saying coffee, kind of. That means coefficient for short. Press that, and then we can enter over. So 10, enter, and then we need a minus. We already have that. Put in a 3, enter. We have a minus, and make that a 1, enter. Now let's push solve. And it's still in fraction, and that is what we began with, so we are correct. This will be the last question in this video. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, liking us, and subscribing. If you haven't, please consider doing that. Happy testing, everybody.